And it's recording. I'm Austin Light with American Demon Comics, joined by Brandon Ingram with Dismay Comics. We are returning for another movie review, and we are going over our thoughts about uh, Deadpool versus Wolverine. No, Deadpool and Wolverine,
Yeah. There are
I
some
should say.
verses in there.
Yes.
Not in the
There's-
title, but in the movie itself. Yeah.
um, much better than the Batman versus Superman.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's the thing is this movie overall is better than most superhero movies, like most average superhero movies is what I mean.
Yeah.
But with that saying, I don't think it's great or amazing like everyone is saying. I will say that. We had talked about that some.
Right. So I want to jump into this overall feeling from the communities. So some of the people I like to go to for reviews, and they're pretty like I usually agree with them, is Charlie from Moist Critical,
Mhm.
and his Moist meter, and then the Cosmonaut Variety Hour. I can't remember his name. He doesn't often say it. But I usually like their reviews. They're pretty good. They're pretty thorough. And both of them were very much on the this is a okay kind of movie.
Yeah.
Kind of better than better than par. Not not a 8. Not a 7 maybe around there.
Yeah.
Um, and Brandon was telling me he's very much in the same camp as that, which is contrary to what he's been seeing with
Yeah, like
most reviewers.
the one person I've seen, or the one collective I've seen that like has said about what I've said is like Mr. Sunday Movies or the Weekly Planet podcast, the Australian boys. Um, they are fairly on the same wave as like me and the people you had mentioned of like
Mm-hmm.
it was a fun time, enjoyable time, but there are issues with the movie and it's not amazing. It's not a 10 out of 10, but it is worth seeing in the movie theater.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good movie theater experience. And
We do
that's
want to.
pretty much where I align with. I think
Right.
it's a good movie theater experience, but I'm not going to call it great or amazing movie.
Yes, I think the actual intentions of this movie was to be really good in the theaters.
Yeah.
Um, if you haven't seen it in theaters, go watch it in theaters.
Yeah.
This is going to be spoilers. It should be in the title. Spoilers. So we will be discussing uh, scenes and what happens in the movie. Uh, but I'm pretty much on the same page. I really enjoyed it in theaters. Like I told Brandon beforehand, I was a little bit inebriated, a little bit under the influence
Bump it
while
up
getting to
like
watch
on a
this.
on a 10-point scale, it bumps it up a
Yeah, I
point.
bumped it up probably about 2 points. I was still sober enough to understand that there's not um, some deep stuff going on under the hood that is going to be, pulled from this. Oh, excuse me. And yeah, so I'm very much in the same camp. Didn't think that it was the most, 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. 8 out of 10, maybe in the theaters. Thinking about it, it's like a 6.
Yeah,
Um,
because what Austin had said earlier, like the groups that I've seen, like I talk with and watch a lot of the comic YouTubers and the pop culture YouTubers and stuff, and see their reactions on that sort of stuff, and like almost unanimously, I know there are some outliers, but almost unanimously, they're all like 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10. There's a lot of 10 out of 10s and saying it's an amazing movie, which, hey, if you had that experience, that's great. But overall, I don't think it's that. I don't think it is this amazing thing. And we had talked about it earlier, like before this, of like why I possibly think like people are rating it so high. Um, and ultimately, it could just be you had a great experience. But I think part of it is there has been a long gap since the last Marvel movie slash DC movie. You can say both, or any superhero movie. There's been a long gap. Last one was the Marvels. That was like back in November. Um, and that had not great reception. I don't think it's a bad movie. Always everyone like trashes on that movie. I think it's a decent watch. I really like Kamala Khan as a character and stuff. But but yeah, like it's been since Guardians of the Galaxy 3, since people have seen like a great superhero movie, basically. And that was like a year and a half ago, pretty much. And since there's been so much time, so much of a gap, I think people subconsciously were just like hungry and thirsty for something that like was at least a good experience, to
Mm-hmm.
where so much time has passed, they're just wanting a good movie theater experience, and they got that. And because they've just waited for something like this for so long, that also heightens the
It was a
experience.
good dopamine rush.
Yeah, it was a good dopamine rush, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Mm-mm.
I had mentioned to Austin before, I'm not saying it's going to have exactly this effect, but I see it possibly having a similar effect to Spider-Man No Way Home, the third Spider-Man movie with Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire and all them. When that first came out, unanimously, myself as well, everyone was like, "This was awesome. This was like one of the
Mm-hmm.
best movies of the year." And
Yeah.
I've only seen it that once, so I can't lessen my thought yet. But after that, when people started revisiting it a year, 2 years, 3 years after, a lot of people are saying like it was okay. Like it's not that great. Even some people being like, that wasn't a good movie, sort of thing. Whereas everyone was unanimously saying this was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I think Deadpool and Wolverine could fall into the same line of everyone saying, I'm not saying it, but everyone saying this is amazing, and then few years pass, and it's like, okay, yeah, it wasn't as good as we're all saying.
Mm-hmm. Well, personally, so first I have a theory that
Yeah,
I think that a lot of the positivity probably comes from a lot of the callbacks to like classic
yeah, yeah, yeah,
comics. So, first spoiler here, there's a lot of Wolverine callbacks,
yeah, yeah.
different covers, classic moments,
I mean,
classic
just in
scenes.
that, I mean, there's a ton of them, but there's that
Hmm.
one montage where
Right.
Deadpool is trying to find a Wolverine, and he's going to all these universes. And like you said, it's the different Wolverines you're seeing. There's the John Byrne costume Wolverine, which that's always been my favorite costume. I love the brown that's incorporated with the yellows and stuff. Um, there's a Wolverine with that costume. There's the Wolverine from the X-Men Apocalypse costume where he's missing an arm and all that, and the big old X and like a
Hmm.
a sea of skulls where
Yeah,
Wolverine's
he's
hanging up.
they're
There's
crucified
all
on an
these,
X.
yeah, yeah, yeah. There's all these little things, and there's very funny moments with all of
Hmm.
those things. So yeah,
The what got me was the comic book accurate Wolverine,
yeah, yeah,
where
yeah.
he steps
It's
off and
like
he's
five
five
two,
foot two.
like 5'2" Wolverine, like barely taller than a bar stool, basically. Yeah.
That
When
one
I
was
saw that,
great.
I personally was like, I'm so glad we have 6 foot, 6 foot Hugh Jackman.
uh, I think one of them was they went and did the what's that actor's name that played Superman? Uh,
Henry Cavill, yeah, they had Henry
Cavill.
Cavill
They had
be
a
one of them.
Cavill version of
Yeah, because that's like a,
Cavalrine, which I
I
didn't.
like that because it's almost like a two-part meta thing. Oh, there's a
Yeah.
lot of meta stuff like the Channing Tatum Gambit thing. We'll get to that later, but like with the Henry Cavill thing, one, people have like been fan casting him for a long time as
Mm-hmm.
Wolverine, similar to Jim from The Office. I'm blanking on his name right now. Him with being Mr. Fantastic in that Doctor Strange movie a few years ago. Um, they've been fan casting Henry Cavill as Wolverine for a while, as well as this was also kind of a dig at DC for bringing back and including Henry Cavill as Superman at the very end of Black Adam, and then nothing happening with that because that universe is done because it made no money. I think it's also that where it's like, no, no, we just have him as like Wolverine, and we're never going to do anything with it. But it's like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
here he is as Wolverine.
Um, I thought that was great. Those that was one of the moments that I just cracked up. The comic book accurate Wolverine struck a chord because I just heard so much of that, like from my dad. Like
Mhm.
when we would go watch those X-Men movies, we would come out of the theater, and I was what, less than 10 years old
Mhm.
at the time, and my dad was like, that's not really what Wolverine. Well, Wolverine's not that tall. He's a little guy. He's called Wolverine for a reason. So
Yeah, yeah.
I always had that in the back of my mind when I saw Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, and that never changed anything. I loved Hugh Jackman in
Yeah, yeah.
as Wolverine. I loved him in some of those later X-Men reboots, I guess you would say, and he was great in Logan. Logan is one of my all-time favorite movies. Like it's up there in the top 10. And it just really hit me when he stepped off that. There's a little
Hops off
bounce
and
when he,
yeah.
he gets
He
off the stool.
shrieks. Yeah.
um, so that was good, and uh, I do want to kind of like let's go over some of the good things that we thought about
Yeah,
the
yeah.
movie, and I'll pop off what that was the first one. Not the first one, but like one of the most memorable ones for me.
Yeah, yeah.
The of subversion with Chris Evans
Yeah,
being
yeah.
Captain America to him being the
Yeah, yeah.
Human Torch.
No, that whole
Awesome.
scene was great. Yeah, because you think like, oh, is it like a variant Cap or something?
Mm-hmm.
And then yeah, because Deadpool's like, oh, he's gonna say it. He's gonna say Avengers Ascend. And it's flame
Flame
on.
on.
And yeah, great scene. Like there's a ton of great scenes like that.
um, that also struck a chord just because you've associated them as both people, but
Yeah, yeah,
you've completely buried that Fantastic Four,
yeah, yeah,
and they just wanted to remind you.
yeah.
Um, and there was a lot to with the movie that was like, we want to remind you of these things that you hated, but we're gonna make it funny. We're gonna make it
Yeah, yeah,
like we're
yeah.
gonna make it good.
They
In a
they
sense, they
pick
kind of
at
redeemed
like
some things.
I was gonna say they pick at some of the Fox stuff here and there, like with the Fantastic Four, with we'll get to it later, like Elektra and all of that stuff. But like I don't know, like and you see this with the credits when they're rolling. It kind of is like a swan song or like just like a love letter a little bit to the Fox universe. It's not entirely, but it is very much like, oh no, like yes, some of this stuff is bad, but we can acknowledge like this was a good time when it happened, as well
Hmm.
as this is what this stuff looks like when it's put into good hands. It
Right.
actually is kind of good.
um, yeah. So with the cameos, we kind of brought them up. Uh,
Well,
Johnny, go
well,
ahead.
first I'll say like the movie itself, it's Deadpool and Wolverine. That very much is the case. But you could just say Deadpool Wolverine colon subtitle cameos. cameo superheroes. That's the movie. That
Yeah.
is the movie, and that's okay. But that is the movie. It's Deadpool and Wolverine, cameos galore. Like
Hmm.
that's the movie.
Um, and I was gonna uh, step a little bit into that direction. Wolverine and Deadpool get tossed into a abandonment limbo kind of
Yeah.
thing of these properties. And Johnny was one of the characters that was there. And as they get captured, they're taken back. And uh, you start to see more and more of this limbo, forgotten realm kind of come into fruition. You see the X-Men Juggernaut,
Yeah, yeah.
the original Juggernaut from the movies original. Um,
Different actor though. I noticed the build. He was buff and strong, but the
mhm.
build was a little bit different. But it was still cool to see him at the very least, because all of this you can just wave off as if it's different casting or whatever. You can just say it's a variant of that character
Mhm.
because you can do that with this. It's like okay, that works.
Yeah. So you start to see these characters pop up, and I'm trying to kind of figure out this Ant-Man thing because they had the Ant-Man suit
Yeah,
be
yeah.
the base and open up for them, and I kind of stepped away from Marvel after Endgame, and Ant-Man was a big part of Endgame, and I
Mhm.
assumed that he was still kind of considered like alive as
Well,
a property and as a
that's the thing with this movie is like multiverses and variants. That's a variant of Ant-Man. It's an Ant-Man from a different universe that got cast into here, and now we don't know how, but he got killed in his giant form to where
mm,
now his whole body is the base for these bad guys, sort of thing.
gotcha. um so that just kind of goes to show you how much layering they have in this universe, because Ant-Man is, from as far as my knowledge, pretty relevant to
Yeah, yeah,
the Avengers world. So, uh, oh, that reminds me, he did have a scene where he's trying to join the Avengers, uh, and they they danced all around Tony Stark and everything.
yeah, yeah,
They danced around all that, and I thought that was pretty entertaining. It's really nice. It's really fun to see that like Fox properties have been brought into a broader place, and we were uh, wondering what they would do with Wolverine, because honestly, poor Hugh Jackman has to, he loves being Wolverine. I'm sure that he
yeah, yeah,
loves being
yeah,
Wolverine, but at the same time, he trained his ass off. He's malnourished himself at times, at points in
yeah.
time, to be lean and work out and be insanely dedicated to this role. And and just like Deadpool said, till you're 90.
Yeah.
uh they
which
keep
I
bringing
mean,
him
if
back.
they, because that's the thing is like I'm almost certain Hugh Jackman thought Logan would be the last one,
Right.
2017 Logan. Um, but with this, there's two things that definitely brought him back. Sure, yes, you could say like he liked the script or whatever. The two things, the number one thing is they backed up the money truck and dumped it. And I was like, here you go. If you're in the movie, all of this is yours and more. They threw money at him. There's that, and then I also think like he does have good rapport with Ryan Reynolds, so Ryan Reynolds is probably able to like push him a little bit, be like, "Come on, like this one last go, come on, let's
I
go."
can't
But like,
imagine it being any different than Deadpool actually egging him on
yeah,
to
yeah, oh yeah,
join
yeah, yeah. I think those are the two big factors that got him to do this. And here's the thing: Deadpool saying the "till you're 90" thing, very funny, and not completely wrong.
No.
If they keep throwing money at him, like more and more, like
Mm-hmm.
freaking bringing Robert Downey Jr. back. Like there's no telling how, it's probably like $100 million for like one or two movies is what it took them just for
Mm-hmm.
one actor of an ensemble of actors who are getting paid millions as well. Like with Hugh Jackman, they'll likely do the same thing. Like
Mm-hmm.
throwing not $100 million, but like, hey, $50 million for you to be in this movie. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
all right, I'll do it. Like he'll jump into it. Like so it is one of those things where if they keep throwing more and more money at him, it could be till he's 90.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, it wasn't far off from it because part of me was like, yeah, it's funny, it's meta. Yeah, it's funny, it's kind of true. Haha. But I'm also like, nothing's gonna stand in the way of Disney. Oh
Exactly.
God. you know, Disney is becoming something more and more of an empire, and it's really uh, also something kind of unfortunate because it's like I said before, when I was got on Webtoons one day, it it broke me a little bit, but also really enraged me to see that Marvel put like an Eternals um,
Yeah, yeah,
property on Webtoon because this is a platform for independent creators. This is for people
yeah.
to stand out in place that they cannot have otherwise stood out.
Yeah, because
And
with Marvel, they already have the name
yeah,
recognition, so that's going to make it popular on webtoons, as well as in the contract and stuff. They can likely be like, "We'll give you this much if you put us on top of the page," sort of thing.
right.
So yeah,
Um, so this indie platform was basically just selling out. Now, I'm not like a webtoon historian, so I don't know what they have done under the radar or in the
mm,
past before. But to me, to just log in and see Marvel Eternals, uh, when I'm going to a place to avoid a comic book store because I don't want to see, you know, regurgitated titles
yeah, yeah,
and that ensemble, and I'm going to a place to see some things different. It just it it really enraged me. So to have like Disney continue to steamroll over these properties, yes, I would like them to be all in one place so that you can go in and out of these universes with which each one, and have fun with it that way. But no, I don't want Disney to own literally everything, like
yeah, yeah,
just short of the government, you know?
yeah, yeah. To where like there's almost a baseline of quality in everything. Like most Disney stuff, most modern Disney stuff, whether it's Marvel, Star Wars. Star Wars is a whole nother topic. Marvel, the Disney animated movies or Disney movies are popping out, like there's usually a baseline quality where it's like this might not be great, or hey, that was a good time.
Yeah,
But there's not a lot of modern Disney where it's like this is great or amazing.
right.
There's kind of a baseline
They want
because
to
it
play
is
it
ultimately a
safe.
company that is playing it safe, is looking at statistics and analytics of how to make the most money and have make the most money with a decent a quality that is good enough that doesn't step on any toes or anything like
Hmm.
that. Um, which there's no issue with playing it safe. But if like everything is doing that, it all starts feeling kind of the same.
Yeah, for sure. The with Disney playing it safe, it's just so uninspiring and and if they're going to own everything, like you said, that kind of cuts quality off at the knees. Um, one yeah, what I originally wanted to what I thought about was the special effects. For example, the effects in Marvel is going down and
Yeah.
down and down,
There's
because
even scenes in Deadpool and Wolverine, like some CGI scenes and different stuff. Like overall, a fun time and stuff, but like
Mhm.
there's some CGI and stuff that you compare to Deadpool 1 or Deadpool 2 or like any action movie or whatever. But specifically Deadpool 1 and 2 because those are the closest comparisons. There are a lot of differences in
Downgrades.
CGI and
Yeah.
like here's a couple of them. The biggest one for me is when it's a funny joke and everything, funny thing that happens, very shocking and surprising. But when Johnny Storm gets his skin like ripped off by the
Hmm.
main bad guy, like it just gets sucked off. When you see his like skeletal muscular form, very much looks like a 2010 Mortal Kombat
Yeah.
fatality type CGI. Like it's not the worst thing ever, but it's like it doesn't. And here's the thing, I also get it. Like them possibly, ultimately, I think it boils down to like they just rush the VFX department like they always do. That's how
Hmm.
Disney and Marvel do. I think it could possibly also be that like we can't have it look too real. Like,
Right.
yes, this is rated R, but like
We still
if
want a
we
Looney
have
Tune vibe kind of thing.
exactly, if we have this look too real, we might get hit with something more than a rated R rating.
Hmm.
Um, or we might get way more complaints from people. So I think that could be a reason for something like that, because that then also feeds into another thing. Some of the blood and guts with fighting and stuff is very like the color grading is turned up for the blood. Like it's very a
Hmm.
bright red
Yeah.
compared to the past Deadpool movies where it's more like kind of
Real
a
looking.
darker
Yeah.
red. Yeah, yeah. It's like a darker red when it happens. It looks more real. Whereas like the biggest thing that I saw with this, I love this scene, but I did notice the blood and guts and stuff when he's fighting all the TVA agents in the area where he dug up Logan's body. Like when he's
Hmm.
fighting all them, great fight scene, but all of that blood and guts is like saturation is just turned
Yeah.
up so much. It's very bright red to keep the fun cartooniness of it without it being like, oh gosh, like cover your eyes. Like I think that's possibly a reason.
Yeah. No, I can see that. Um, I do think that they probably wanted to put more of a more they pumped more of their budget into the special effects for this particular movie as compared to, like, the past 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so uh, they were able to
Because
pull some things off pretty well. I think the
yeah, I was gonna
costumes
say
were
those are.
awesome.
Oh yeah, the costumes are great. Because yeah, the two things I mentioned, those are the only two things I like really noticed or
Yeah,
focused on. If there were anything else, I forgot about it or just didn't notice it really. So, I mean, compared to most modern day Marvel movies, that's pretty good because there's a lot of there's a lot of VFX stuff that you can notice with a modern day Marvel movie.
yeah. Um, so yep, my problem with Disney, the more they accumulate, they the more they can get away with pumping out.
Yeah,
And that's just an overall bad thing.
yeah,
But here I am giving them money for the movie. But uh,
yeah,
I tend to try and give other things my money and stay away from Disney. But when they own
everything.
80% of
It's pretty
entertainment, it's really
tough.
hard.
Yeah,
Uh, so I think the next thing I wanted to get into is just more of these cameos that happened.
yeah, yeah.
The Blade came in, the Gambit, um, Electra. That was awesome. I
with all of the because you had mentioned before, uh, either it was before we started recording or when we were recording that like this is a movie theater experience, like a crowd experience,
hmm
like with Infinity War, or Endgame, or No Way Home. I think No Way Home's the biggest comparison. Um, you have these pops, and I think the biggest pop in terms of like the audience's reaction and stuff like that was when Blade came out. At least in my theater,
Yeah.
that was the biggest plot pop when Blade came out. Everyone was like, "Yeah," and then some people clapping, that sort of stuff. Like it was similar to when Toby Maguire came through the portal in No Way Home. There was a
Yeah.
big pop in my
Yeah.
theater for that. So yeah, like I and that wasn't my favorite cameo. Blade being there is cool. I like
hmm
Blade 1 and 2. Those are very, very fun movies, very good. That my favorite cameo, I don't know, maybe just because of like narrative wise and the jokes they did with it, probably was Johnny Storm.
hmm
There was a lot they did with that, um, that I did like. But no, I did like the cameos they had,
hmm
like the hundreds of cameos that like there's some cameos that are just cameos, and then there's cameos
yeah.
like Blade, Elektra, and Gambit, where
hmm
they're literally characters in the movie. Like they play a
Right.
big plot role, like with Johnny Storm. Um, but yeah, like there's
I'll
a
tell
ton of
you, my favorite one is X-23 coming out. Now,
yeah,
I
yeah,
had a problem with the screen time. Electra and X-23 did not get enough screen time. I
yeah.
really
Oh yeah,
wanted
I
some
agree.
more fighting out of them.
That was the
Um,
first thing I thought. I didn't think about it with X-23, but I did think about it with Elektra as like compared to Gambit and Blade, she got like not a lot of screen time.
yeah, they did them dirty. I think with screen time.
Yeah.
I'm sure that the screen time may play in ratio to how much they get paid.
Mhm.
So it might be like, well, I don't. If you're paying me this much, I don't want to be on. I don't want to be doing that much work for it.
Mhm.
There's a lot of choreography and stuff that you have to learn and direct and stuff to
Yeah, yeah.
do good fight scenes. But uh, I really would have liked to see more of them
Yeah.
because I was hoping to have more X-23 in Logan. I was hoping to have more after Logan to see what happens with X-23.
Yeah.
Um, I really, enjoyed her as a the character that she was, but more so, who was she going to be after Logan? Like,
Right. Yeah, yeah.
how did she that develop her? And it did, there was a little bit of a Logan payoff in this movie, but I wanted, I don't want an X-23 payoff to be in Deadpool.
Yeah,
But
yeah. Yeah.
she did try and get the other Wolverine out of the trenches a little bit.
Yeah.
But she was my favorite cameo. She was my favorite part. I gasped. I
Yeah, yeah.
literally had like a when she came
My
out.
I think the one reason there wasn't really a pop, I mean there was kind of a pop a little bit with X-23. I think the reason there wasn't really in my theater is like out of any of the cameos throughout the movie, she's the one they put in trailers. And I think they
I
shouldn't
didn't
have put
watch a
her
lot
in
of trailers.
trailers. I only saw like one, but I think I remember her being in trailers. And then I heard from others that like, yeah, she's in all the other trailers. I was like, they should have just held that off.
Yeah.
Like you have enough footage with Deadpool and Wolverine, just cut footage and have that be in the trailer. And then all the other stuff can be surprise. But
So another cameo that kind of goes under the radar, I think, was Matthew McConaughey was the cowboy
yeah,
Deadpool.
I had no idea till like I got home and like people were saying it on the internet and stuff. I had no idea that was Matthew McConaughey. I just thought it was like, yeah, it's someone. I don't know.
Right. They're all wearing a
And
mask.
there was someone else. There's like another person. It was one of the Deadpools or something where it was along that line where it's like, oh, I had no idea it was that person. Like it was
Hmm.
such a small role. Because yeah, with the Matthew McConaughey thing, he had like 2 lines, maybe
Yeah.
3 lines at most. Like I would have
With the
never guessed that.
I think with the woman Deadpool, it was Ryan's wife.
His
I want to
wife, yeah,
say.
yeah, Blake Lively, yeah,
Um, Other than that, I don't know who else was under those masks.
yeah. I can't remember. One, it's random, and you can't even really like pick them out. One of them is Tom Holland's brother. Like his brother is one of the variant or one of the Deadpools.
Hmm.
Uh, Baby
Please,
Pool.
please, can you get me a part in a movie? I'll see what I can do.
Baby Pool is Ryan Reynolds' son, like his actual baby. Kid Pool is also their kid. Um, there were like multiple others I can't even remember.
Something that I brought up at the end was I was like, I really wish they had Gwenpool in it. Um,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that would have been fun. And then Robbie was like, "Nah, they can't because Spider-Man Sony, and they didn't strike
Oh
a deal."
yeah. I think I saw
So
that in one of the reviews. Yeah,
so Gwenpool, they don't have the rights to Stacy Gwen, so they can't have Gwenpool. Like,
yeah.
dang it. Foiled again by the ownership of properties.
Corporations. Yeah. No, the cameos were great. They were fun. There were great crowd pops and stuff. There's a lot of fan service in the movie. It's fan service the movie basically.
Yes.
And it is fun. It is good. Um, and I enjoy that stuff. But narrative wise, it's
Let's
pretty
get into the
basic.
bad. Let's get
Yeah, it's pretty basic. Sometimes there's some plot threads they don't really care about.
expand upon too
Yeah,
much.
yeah. Which I do get. It's supposed to be a fun joke cameo movie. I had mentioned to Austin before this. If anyone is mad about this, don't take this as an insult. This is just what the movie is.
Hmm.
It's kind of the formula that the scary movies do, or the epic movie, date movie, all of those parody movie stuff. The reason I bring those up, not saying Deadpool and Wolverine is entirely a parody. It is to a degree. It does poke fun at a bunch of stuff. But with those movies, there's a lot of like cameo appearances of stuff where it's like, oh, I think in the epic movie, it's like, oh, Kung Fu Panda's here. I'm gonna fight Kung Fu Panda. It's dumb, fun stuff like that sometimes, and sometimes it doesn't land well. Sometimes it lands pretty well. Deadpool does better in the stuff landing well, but it is kind of that a little bit where it's like, hey, we got this thing, hey, we got this thing, hey, look over here, remember this, remember that, do a little 5-second joke about this one thing and now it's gone.
Yeah.
Like it teeters a little bit with that, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but it comes off as that sometimes, to where with those movies, with those parody movies, the focus is on the jokes, it is on the cameos, to where the plot isn't really entirely there for those movies. There's a plot, but it's not like great. Deadpool and Wolverine is kind of the same way. It's better. It's better plot structure than those movies, but it's still not great. It's not good. It is fairly basic superhero plots. I think the TVA stuff, Deadpool getting roped into that, I think that is funny. I think it's interesting. Um, and this could just be it's a comedy movie, so they did this. Which, if that's the case, I'm okay with that. But like one example, the paradox, the bad guy over the TVA sort of thing. Um, he just exposition dumps his bad guy thing like immediately.
Hmm.
Which hey, this is a comedy, this is poking fun at superhero movies. Maybe that was intentional. Maybe it was supposed to be like, and here's the side villain exposition dump, and here's his bad guy plan, and this is what will kickstart the plot, sort of thing.
Hmm.
If that is the case, okay, it's good.
Well,
But still,
if that is the case, I feel like they would have made it more obvious. Maybe Deadpool would have
Yeah,
been
yeah,
like, "Oh, you're just gonna tell me all this? Just
yeah,
gonna say
yeah,
this
yeah,
right now?"
yeah. I think, yeah, I think that's a good point. I think for most audience members, because most of the jokes in Deadpool are very much like, here you go, everyone can get it. It's not really
Hmm.
highbrow stuff. It's not like highbrow satire, really. It's just like,
Right.
ha ha ha, the masses get it. If it is what I was talking about, I think your route is the best way to go, of like having Deadpool at least mention, like, you're just going to exposition dump the whole bad guy plan. Like, tiny
Yeah.
line or something, change the dialogue of what I just said, but essentially that, to where everyone is in on the joke of like, oh, okay, like it's not just bad writing. It's like it's a joke.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
satirizing the bad guy telling the plan, sort of thing. Um, so there's that. Them in the void is good. I don't have much problems with them in the void. It is just kind of like adventure, like trying to get out of the void. Overall, that's fine. The last act, when everything is out of the void, when Cassandra Nova, the big bad guy, bald lady,
Hmm.
like earlier, yes, she is like kind of crazy, like in the void, like she's a super powerful crazy leader sort of thing. Um, it seems like her motivation, once she hears what all is happening, that Paradox is like kind of screwing her over and all this stuff, like it seems like, okay, I'm going to leave the void and I'm going to kill Paradox and his whole TVA team. That seems like the right response, even with her being crazy. That seems like what it
Hmm.
is. But kind of out of nowhere, she's like, I'm gonna put my hands in this thing and I'm gonna destroy all the universes
Now
or
they
whatever.
did
It's
drop a
like,
little joke about that. Um, I think Deadpool goes, "What the MacGuffin?"
yeah,
when
yeah,
they
yeah,
talked about that, because it was a very odd thing
yeah.
uh, to divert to, um, and it seemed like it was just to shoehorn in that last scene to have Wolverine and Deadpool hold hands and his abs show and all this electricity is happening. It
I
seems like
feel
that
like,
was what they were having to.
I know they wanted the big, us doing something to beat the big bad guy as they're doing something. They have to have that in all these movies and stuff. I think the way to, like, that would have been better is just like, no, she does pop out of the void real quickly just to kill Paradox and the whole TVA team, and they had already set the accelerator. The accelerator is happening. Cassandra Nova dips out because she doesn't care about that. Like, she just wanted to kill Paradox and the whole TVA team. She dips out, and now Deadpool and Wolverine are left in a lab, and it's like, oh crap, how do we do this? And then they get the hand holding scene. I don't
Mhm.
think you had to have Cassandra Nova do all that stuff to get the same thing.
Well, they
Like,
might have wanted to like erase her in some form. Like that would have
I
erases
guess,
her
yeah,
from this her being in another movie or something
yeah,
for Deadpool, I guess. I mean, after what we saw in this movie, you can't
yeah,
really
yeah,
assume that that will happen. But
yeah,
as far as being like in his reality, I guess it was
yeah, yeah,
to kill her. Um, but again, it was just such an odd choice for her to take.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. Like, it would have made, like, if you, I don't think anyone has to put their hands in the thing and, I'm gonna kill people.
it's the Marvel third act.
Why? I understand, like the bullcrap thing is like that they wrote in there is like, oh, it has to be someone with power so they don't die when doing it. You can just erase that little line in your script. Why can't it just be Paradox? Like, why can't he just be doing that? And
Yeah.
Deadpool and Wolverine are trying to stop him. Like, I don't know. It's she's a good villain for the Void. I don't think you have to have her a villain after that. Overall, the big bad guy seems like it would be Paradox, this corporate guy who's
Yeah.
like trying to take over the TVA. Like, I don't know, that makes more sense narrative structure because that was the beginning of the movie. Like the first 30 minutes we're introduced to bad guy, and then the 40 or 45-minute mark we're introduced to no, this is actual big bad guy. It's like, well, which one? You have, okay, so you have minor bad guy, and then, oh, okay, big bad guy got introduced later. It should have just been Paradox is and it doesn't have to, you don't have to say big bad guy, but it's just like bad guy. Paradox is bad guy and his team that are doing the TVA stuff. In the Void, your big threat, that's a better way to put it. The threat in the Void is Cassandra Nova. Once you got out of the Void, after you did your little talking with her and stuff, now we have to stop big bad guy, Paradox and the TVA. Like, I don't know. That makes more sense than Cassandra Nova, like putting her,
Yeah.
her fist and all that. I don't know. It just doesn't line up with the character I saw in the Void.
Right.
Not that I entirely like care about that character,
Now, I
but
feel
like,
like her motivations went under the radar for me. Was Is this the same situation for you or other people? Because maybe she wanted to erase the time world, the time reality that they're in, to be dumped into her limbo so that they could suffer what she suffered, and then she can also have all these new toys to play with in this void.
is that
What do
what
you
would happen? Is they would
I
all get dumped into the Void?
I don't know. I was like, this is an idea that came into my head that I'm like, is wait a minute, is this something that I missed, um, or was she just wanting to kind of be suicidal about it? You know?
Yeah, I don't like, even if it's like she wants all universes dumped into the Void. Like, yes, she is like truly powerful and all this stuff, but like, she's truly powerful. She's crazy, all this stuff. But would you want all universes dumped into your Void to where there might be another version of you or something more powerful that
Mm-hmm.
could then stop you? Like,
Well,
I
I
don't
don't.
know.
This was just a like literally a theory that
No.
I thought of 3 seconds ago. I did I because like I said, don't know her true motivations to why she was wanting to destroy this
Yeah,
the whole reality, um other than to exact some kind of revenge.
yeah, yeah. Like the motivation with her isn't really clear, and the little bit that we see in the Void doesn't lead me to concluding that, like, okay, yeah, she wants to put her hands in this and destroy all the realities, either destroy them or they all go into the Void.
Hmm.
Like, what I saw before doesn't lead me to thinking that's what she wants to do. What
Yeah.
I saw before makes me think she just wants to put her hand in Paradox and just like torture him and drag him into the Void or whatever.
Hmm.
um but I don't know.
Well, that's ooh, sorry, cat. Um, that's all the notes that I can kind of go over with this movie. Um, Overall, fun movie. Go see it
Yeah,
in theaters. It's a
overall,
spectacle. It's like season 8
it's
of Game of Thrones. You want to see that on the big screen, but you're kind of dying inside from the story.
yeah, overall, it's a fun time. Like Austin said, we're seeing in theaters. um I don't think it's amazing. I don't think it's 10 out of 10. Like, if I did a 1 to 10 scale, I might say like 7 out of 10, something like that.
Yeah.
um but I mean, like it's worth seeing, and like there are scenes that I'll remember for a while. Not a ton, but there are some that stuck out to me. The Honda Odyssey fight scene is the one. It's funny, but two, it's also the best fight scene to me. Like
Yeah.
how it is all cramped into the Honda Odyssey. It's choreographed very well. It's very funny because they have the day night cycle where it seems like they pan and it seems like it's going on for
Mm-hmm.
12 hours or 24 hours or whatever. Then they're asleep and Deadpool's all wrapped in the seat belts and stuff. Very funny and very great fight scene. That's the highlight to me in this movie. And then this is the first time I have cared about an end credit scene or liked an end credit scene in so long in these movies. I got to a point like a couple years ago where I just don't stay for end credits anymore because I
Mm-hmm.
even if it's like here's the next thing, here's
Yeah.
Galactus or here's this, I just don't care anymore. I'm
Right.
not. It's not worth me sitting for another 10 to 15 minutes to see this. I'll just read about it in an article.
Mm-hmm.
But this one to me was worth seeing. It's a funny joke. It's not here's what's next. It's just a funny joke that calls back to a thing that they played throughout the movie. Like throughout the movie, Johnny gets killed, and it seems like it's very much Deadpool's fault. Like
Mm-hmm.
he got him killed, making up these lies or whatever that Johnny said. Um, and throughout the movie, like Wolverine, like people will ask, like, "Where's Johnny?" and stuff, and Wolverine's like, "Yeah, don't even start there." Or he'll be
Mm-hmm.
like, "You got Johnny killed. What are you talking about?" And Deadpool will be like, "He got himself killed." And you're like, "Okay, Deadpool." But then the very end credit scene, Deadpool looks back at that scene. There was a camera. He looks back at that scene, and all the stuff that Deadpool said, that Johnny said, you see that Johnny actually did say all that stuff. It's so outlandish and crazy, all the stuff. It's like, there's no way Johnny said that.
Yeah, it's such
And you
like a
see it.
Ryan Reynolds script of like
Yeah.
word funny vomit that
Yeah.
you thought that it was so Deadpool that said that, and
Yeah.
and then you hear it come out of Chris Evans' mouth so fluently. They killed it.
Yeah. Like those two scenes, Honda Odyssey scene and that end credit scene that ties to that joke that runs throughout the movie, like those are the highlights of this movie to me.
Yeah. I'd say my highlights were comic book accurate Wolverine stepping off the bar stool
Yeah.
and X-23 coming out. Um, and I don't know how I feel about her putting on those little sunglasses. I think it's really cute.
Yeah.
I think it was really funny. I would have liked to see her fight without them though.
It's very much like a fan service thing.
Right.
Like the sunglasses, because it's like, oh, remember when she was like 11 years old and she wore
Mm-hmm.
these sunglasses? Like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, now she's like 19 years old and she puts on the sunglasses again.
Um, have you ever watched the South Park episode with the member berries?
Yeah. Well,
With,
that's what I was getting at the beginning of this. Is like it's very much remember this,
yeah,
remember.
remember this? My girlfriend was doing that to me on the way out because I was
Yeah,
like,
that's
"Oh,
that is
X-23 was in it," and she was like, "Remember X-23? Remember
yeah.
that
This
with our
movie,
glasses?"
this movie is very much member berries the movie.
It's member berries in the last 2 decades. It's not
Yeah.
one. There are some like the comic book ones, the cover callbacks that they reach out to with some of those Wolverine scenes. That reaches farther back. But for
Yeah.
the most part, it's for like the movie cinematic universes
Yeah.
from Fox, from Marvel. Um, that reaches that hits the
Remember,
nostalgia chord.
yeah. Remember when Blade said some people struggle to skate up Ice Hill or whatever? He says it again in this.
But yeah, good theater experience.
Yeah.
Um, uh, Bland story, but you know, it. I think that it did what it set out to do.
Yeah.
And thinking about it, maybe I don't like it, or maybe like it as much as the other Deadpools. I thought the other Deadpools were just kind of funny and I enjoyed them.
Yeah.
This one I feel like I enjoyed a lot more.
Yeah.
But story wise, I don't know where to place it really. I feel like coming out of the theater, I was like, this was definitely better than the other two. Like this was
Right.
definitely, but Wolverine had a lot to do with that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, it's a funner time. It's a better theater experience in terms of the crowd that's there. Like I think that's what heightens that feeling or that experience more. Um, it's one of those things that I think it'll have to be one of those 10 years later, someone does a movie marathon of Deadpool 1, 2, and
mm-hmm.
Deadpool and Wolverine. And then you're able to really tell, like, okay, like how good was this? And is it better than the
Yeah,
others?
Cosmonaut Variety Hour comes out with a why it sucked in 10 years for
Yeah.
um, all right. Well, thank you for joining me today, Brandon, for not only a podcast, but a review that has now gone on longer than the podcast itself. um, I'm Austin Light with American Demon Comics, and this is Brandon Ingram with Dismay Comics. You can find us in Facebook and Instagram with our business tags, American Demon Comics or Dismay Comics. Um, and we're coming out with different things. Brandon has a Kickstarter coming up in September for his series, The Gallows Man. It'll be Gallows Man number 3, and I believe you can get number 1 and 2 in some of those packages. And then I am working on issue number 3 of my title, Envy, which is very paranormal, demonic based, and there's hot demons and a good story. So, yeah, join me on that adventure. And the Gallows Man is very much like the Adam West Batman meets Inglorious Bastards. So that's always a fun time. And go check out our projects. We have fun doing it, and mine's available online, and Brandon's Kickstarter's coming up. So you will have to check us out. Uh, thank you for joining us on this review. The last review seemed to do pretty good, and so we're going to keep doing some reviews. It's fun to kind of reflect as writers and as creators to kind of think about these things so that we don't also make these mistakes.
Yeah.
All right, Brandon. I'll catch you next time.
Take care.